Can I ask you about executive pay, Anil? Because we have seen a lot of focus from the activists on this, and over time, before the pandemic, we saw some of those salaries grow, and even if shareholders objected, those salaries were still paid out. Now with the pandemic, we've seen a lot of those senior salaries cut, although there's been a granting of certain stock options, which is quite handy when you've seen beaten up stock prices and huge recovery in the back of it. What are activists going to do with compensation?
Yeah, so one of the focus areas of activists is to make sure that the executives' pay are aligned with the performance of the company. And what we've seen with the pandemic, regardless of companies, CEOs and directors taking a pay cut, the median of the CEO pay has still risen, whether it's in the S&P 500 or in the FTSE 100. So we expect to see more focus on that in the upcoming season when it comes down to the AGM in 2021, reflecting to 2020 performance year. So we will see more focus and more scrutiny for activism on executive pay.
That's why the American Rescue Plan was designed to help people not just all at once, but over the course of a full year. So we could continue supporting families, small businesses, state and local budgets, to help them weather those ups and downs. And now that the economy is back on track, we're making progress on the second phase of our strategy, ensuring long-term growth. That's what my Build Back Better agenda, including my Americans Family Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure agreement we reached last month, that's what they're all about, long-term. But to keep our country moving, we have to take another step as well. And I know you're all tired of hearing me during the campaign and since I'm elected president talk about it. And that's bringing fair competition back to the economy. That's why today I'm going to be signing shortly an executive order promoting competition to lower prices, to increase wages, and to take another critical step toward an economy that works for everybody. The heart of American capitalism is a simple idea: open and fair competition. That means that if your companies want to win your business, they have to go out and they have to up their game. Better prices and services, new ideas and products. That competition keeps the economy moving and keeps it growing. Fair competition is why capitalism has been the world's greatest force of prosperity and growth. By the same token, competitive economy means companies must do everything they do to compete for workers, offering higher wages, more flexible hours, better benefits. But what we've seen over the past few decades is less competition and more concentration that holds our economy back. We see it in big agriculture, in big tech, in big pharma. The list goes on. Rather than competing for consumers, they are consuming their competitors. Rather than competing for workers, they're finding ways to gain the upper hand on labor. And too often, the government has actually made it harder for new companies to break in and compete. Look at what that means for family budgets. Take prescription drugs. Just a handful of companies control the market for many vital medicines, giving them leverage over everyone else to charge whatever they want. As a result, Americans pay 2.5 times more for prescription drugs than in any other leading country. And nearly 1 in 4 Americans struggles to afford their medication. Another example, hearing aids. Right now, if you need a hearing aid, you can't just walk into a pharmacy and pick one up over the counter. You have to get it from a doctor or a specialist. Not only does that make getting hearing aids inconvenient, it makes them considerably more expensive. And it makes it harder for new companies to compete, innovate, and sell hearing aids at lower prices. As a result, a pair of hearing aids can cost thousands of dollars. That's a big reason why just 1 in 7 Americans with hearing loss actually use a hearing aid. Another example, internet services. There are more than 65 million Americans live in a place with only one high-speed internet provider. Research shows when you have a limited internet operation, you pay up to 5 times more on average than families in places with more choices. That's what a lack of competition does. It raises the prices you pay. It's not just consumers getting hurt. Big Ag is putting a squeeze on farmers. Small and family farms, first-time farmers, like veterans coming home and Black and Latino and indigenous farmers. They're seeing price hikes for seed, lopsided contracts, shrinking profits, and growing debt. Lack of competition hurts workers as well. In many communities, there are only a handful of employers left competing for workers. Think of company towns across Appalachia and other parts of the country where one big corporation runs the show. When corporations have that kind of leverage over workers, it pushes down advertised wages by up to 17%. And as competition decreases, businesses don't feel the pressure to innovate or invest in their workforce. That hurts working families and hurts our economy. All told, between rising prices and lowering wages, lack of competition costs the median American household $5,000 a year. Now look, I'm a proud capitalist. I spent most of my career representing the corporate state of Delaware. I know America can't succeed unless American business succeeds. But let me be very clear. Capitalism without competition isn't capitalism. It's exploitation. Without healthy competition, big players can change and charge whatever they want and treat you however they want. And for too many Americans, that means accepting a bad deal for things that you can't go without. So, we know we've got a problem, a major problem, but we also have an incredible opportunity.
Facebook, $1 trillion for the first time, the fifth company to join that club on this court decision. And Lina Khan, 2 weeks in, has got a big test.
Look out. Lina Khan has got a roadmap about how to go after Facebook. Now, this was a total beatdown of Facebook. And Judge Boasberg basically just said, this Trump FTC, you guys, you got to go to school at least and learn what antitrust is. I mean, it was really ugly.
And the states, too. Let's not forget our part of this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But Lina Khan is going to use the roadmap in here about how to go after Facebook. Make no doubt about it. And she will go after them because they're much more sophisticated. They're a zillion times more sophisticated.
This would seem to make it more difficult, not easier, for the FTC to try and make another case. They can come back with an amended complaint within 30 days, but there seems to be a lot of doubt as to what they're going to be able to base that on that's going to be able to not get thrown out of court.
He's right, because what the FTC failed to do was explain at all how this hurts the consumer.
Right.
And just because you have a monopoly doesn't really mean anything. I know that, look, there's no way that Lina Khan is just going to say, you know what, we're going to let this go. She can't.
Well,
she can't.
I mean, Facebook did make the decision to try to get it thrown out as opposed to Alphabet, which is going to court against the DOJ in 2023 right now.
You're absolutely right. Now, the FTC can do better. But the judge is going to go against him, is what you're saying. I agree with that.
Yeah, and don't forget, this was Obama-appointed judge, so conceivably, you know, you've got a lot of Trump-appointed judges who one would expect as well, if the FTC tries to bring things, would respond perhaps in favor of business.
Well, the judge goes over the fact that the FTC spent a lot of time on WhatsApp and on Instagram. There's a very funny moment, by the way. He goes, and on Insta, that's what the kids call it.
It's technically true.
Yeah, Insta. So I thought it was a ruling which just says, these guys don't do any harm. And you got to find out what the denominator is, the personal social network. Yes, they triumph the personal social network. They're not trying to hurt anybody else. Just because they block others from coming in doesn't mean you can't go to another company. I think that they gave him a blueprint. Look, I think Khan has to go after him. But this judge is basically saying, we can't do anything about this. We're not going to break up Facebook. We're just not. That's not a remedy. Because you don't need a remedy. It's very powerful.
Big piece in the Times, though, this morning about the demand for lawyers who have corporate law expertise. It hasn't been this strong since Microsoft in the 90s. This environment's not going away,
I've
is
debated going back to Paul Weiss, working with my friend Bruce Birnbaum, maybe with Scott Barchet. But you know what? I'm going to let them do their own.
I think they got to do their own thing. Of course, they're not the key people. I mean, listen.
They're not key at all.
My point is...
Why did you say that?
Because you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
They are focused on transactions, okay? And what is now going to happen is that, and is happening in terms of larger M&A in particular, is you're going to have a lot of people weighing in prior to even the consideration of said transaction, who are not going to be the M&A professionals, but are going to be those who Carl's just talking about are getting hired left and right, namely ones who are going to be able to weigh in on the antitrust ramifications of a potential deal and or the PR roadmap that you should potentially undertake to try to avoid scrutiny or try to at least combat it in some way when it's coming at you. Alina Khan is a big deal for the M&A community.
She is big.
And it's they're looking at it as a potential loss of significant fees.
She's 32.
She's very young. By the way, we focus so much on technology. Some people have mentioned, take a look at her writings at Yale on healthcare. And take a look at that. So I'll send that out there as well because that may be something that people want to focus on because she was particularly apparently written extensively
against United Health. What is
on healthcare, and
she's certainly not pro-Humana, is she?
No, let's say those who like to see consolidation find it very problematic. Now you're waiting on a third commissioner at the FTC. It's expected to be somebody else who potentially would be more in line again with Khan, and so that would be 3-2. The FTC is going to be an interesting body, but I don't want to make light of the fact that they got beaten soundly here.
Oh no, this was just like they were down there giving them the business. I mean, this was one of those things where you go to law school, and it says, did you guys read that? How much fun they made of the FTC?
Yeah.
I mean, they pantsed them. Do you see it? When you see it in the end where he says, "I pantsed you"? Right, you used the term pants, I think.
And some of the street commentary today, B of A goes to 400 from 390.
Right.
I can't think of a more important day of redemption for Facebook than this ruling.
Well, that's true. I mean, it basically says that it portrays Zuckerberg as a bit of a hero. It's a new narrative. Zuckerberg is hero.
But it also throws it back to Congress and whether or not there's going to be an ability, given there is interest from both sides of the aisle, in writing new antitrust legislation.
What are they going to do? There's no remedy. What are you going to break? How are you going to do? You're going to break this thing back?
Jim,
you jimming me?
I'm jimming you. We don't regulate technology a lot in this country.
Well,
Have you noticed that? And by the way,
we
you
don't,
want to talk about social media and the impact that it has on people of all ages, but in particular people of younger ages. You want to talk about the mental health crisis this country's having? I mean, we regulate the heck out of cigarettes.
Juul.
40 million.
So
well,
I bring it all up only
you
because
killed Juul.
These are issues.
Did you ever see his doc?
These are issues that
Juul.
Congress is still looking at and thinking a lot about.
Did you see how it starts?
Privacy.
At the time of the last great antitrust battle in our courthouse between the United States and Microsoft, Mark Zuckerberg was still in high school. Only after his arrival at Harvard did he launch the Facebook from his dorm. And then they got rid of the. I mean, this guy was so... He must have watched the movie.
He watched the movie.
He watched the movie. The only people who are lacking the Winklevi are not in this. You know, right? If it's your Facebook, it's your Facebook. I mean, remember that?
I do.